Welcome to Commanders Training Camp 2022. We have you covered every day of camp from the team's facility in Ashburn, bringing you this exclusive coverage of practice, interviews with your favorite players, and access like you will not find anywhere else. On today's show, we have a look at Carson Wentz and the offense at the open practice on Saturday out of FedEx Field. We'll talk about where the offense stands now and what still needs to be worked out before the first preseason game this weekend. And it's business as usual for Wentz's top receiving threat, Terry McLaurin. He's out here at camp doing Terry things. Now we know what to expect from him, but how will things shake out with the rest of the receivers? We'll discuss. Linebacker Cole Holcomb is coming by our set to talk about how camp is going so far, what he is seeing in the growth of Jamin Davis, and why wasn't there a celebration after his pick six against the Cowboys last year. And our guys Logan Paulson and Santana Moss will take you to the practice field to watch what's going on and tell you firsthand why it's important and what they remember from their days at camp. It is the closest you can get to camp without actually being here, and we are bringing it all to you right now on Command Center Camp coverage, presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise, setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. This is exclusive access to Washington Commanders training camp at the park here in Ashburn, Virginia. We're giving you daily updates on what is happening out on the practice field. We'll be showing you live look-ins at what's happening throughout our show, so we're glad you could join us. Julie Donaldson here with you with my crew, Logan Paulson and Santana Moss. It is the beginning of week 3. Hard to believe it is week 3, and well, today, just shells for the guys.
Yep.
Week 3 of practice, Santana, what are we working on?
Well, one of the things that's going to be key is just getting these guys ready for the first preseason game. Now, physically ready. And one of the things that I was talking about, like I hope to see them put on the shoulder pads at least once this week, because you have to get back used to thudding and getting ready to tackle somebody. And preseason games are one of those things that's kind of tricky because, you don't want to get hurt. You don't want the guys to go out there and be in harm's way, but at the same time, you want to win the game. Yeah. And you want the young guys to fly around and play like their hair on fire to make sure that they have an opportunity to show some good stuff on tape so they can be a part of this team. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all transpired, but I believe that slowly throughout this week, we should see one day with some pass on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, the preseason is so important, in my opinion, for getting just used to tackling, getting used to, blocking for real, defeating blocks for real, because one of the things you can't do in practice anymore because of the new CBA is tackle to the ground. Yeah. Coaches don't do that anymore. So the first time these guys are going to tackle is in the preseason game, this week. So making sure they're ready, making sure they're feeling good, I think that's important.
And we've seen that too often, I feel like, times where they're missing tackles, but so it is important to make sure that you go through as much as you can with the reps, with the pads on when that happens. But today's just shells. Time now for the top storylines here at training camp that we're keeping an eye on. This is presented by Bank of America, the official bank of the Washington Commanders. The team hosted an open practice for the fans at FedEx Field on Saturday night, doing a lot of what we need to see every day out here in Ashburn, but this time doing it under the lights in front of fans in the stands. It was an exciting preview of what we might be able to expect this Saturday for the preseason opener against the Carolina Panthers. Terry McLaurin and the wide receivers were on full display on Saturday. Terry had a big catch from Carson Wentz, and we saw a touchdown reception from Curtis Samuel. And rookie Jahan Dotson impressed the fans who were in attendance. It's going to be interesting to see how Scott Turner works all of his weapons in during the season. And we can't see this enough. The pass from Carson Wentz to Terry McLaurin, fans were absolutely loving that on social media, but it wasn't the only good ball of the night for Wentz. He's still working out his timing with his new offense, but we found out on Saturday he'll have a chance to get some action in week 1 of the preseason against the Panthers.
Oh, yeah, he'll play. Yeah. Definitely play.
With Carson, too, it seems like the last period where you guys had the extended 11 play stretch.
Right.
Seemed like he was able to get into a little bit more rhythm. Just how important is that for him? And I know that's most quarterbacks, but specifically.
Absolutely, but for him it is, because again, this was again one of the things that you look for when you practice here in your stadium and you have your fans out there. Is you want that energy, electricity, and a little bit of sense of I don't want to say game atmosphere, but game atmosphere. He got a rhythm going. Scotty got a nice rhythm going with his play calling. And I think that gives Carson a little bit of a sense what to anticipate once we get into the games. And that's why this preseason game will be really good for not just Carson, but for the entire offensive unit, Scott included, in terms of play calling, getting into a rhythm that suits him very well. And that's what, I like about it.
Carson, I think Ron said that he plans on playing you next Saturday against Carolina in the preseason opener. How much do you feel like you need, because it's a new system and new everything here?
Yeah, that's something I always leave to the coaches. I trust their decision. I trust what Coach Turner thinks, what Coach Rivera thinks, and everything. And I know as an offense, there's some new pieces, there's some new things, and so I know we want to get out there, and so we'll trust he'll make the call in terms of how much. And either way, excited to run out there and get some live action a little bit.
I think just feeling like man in zone. I know him and I had a rep the last few days, and we ran the same concept today, and we kind of got to talk it out a little bit more, and you get the feel of it a little bit. I think, like I said, it's hard to get every rep of every concept that we run down pat, but I think just the overall communication is big as we go along and through this process. And I think we're both competitive. You want to hit them all, and that's the expectation. But long as we're on the same page, we expect when the games to come around to really start making those plays even more.
Let's dive into some of these storylines. And while it's official, we were talking with Carson Wentz just the other day about how much of the preseason does he want to play. And every year he says it's a little bit different. Sometimes it's a little bit, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not at all. We will see him out there, Logan. How important is it for him? And how much do you want to see before you say, okay, we're good, let's put in the backups?
I think it's great for the player individually, because I think, right now, everything he does, the coach is right there. And you always go to him and be like, oh, hey, you shouldn't have done that right. But then when you're in the game, you're kind of on your own. You're on your own island. You're playing the game by yourself and only getting feedback when you come to the sideline. So I think it's important for him to work on that process in the context of this new offense. And for me, I would just like to see an efficient first drive. I don't care if he throws the ball 10 times or 5 times, 2 times. As long as the offense is on schedule and moving effectively, that's going to be good for my confidence.
We were talking about that, Santana. We heard Coach and even, Carson talking it and Terry talking about just getting in that rhythm. That's what they really wanted to do. A lot of times in practice, we realize they stop down a lot, they pick up, but they really just want to see how they move the ball as if you were in a live game.
Well, one of the things that stands out from watching them play that Saturday, that Saturday practice, is that you did see a rhythm. Yeah. And one of the things that Carson talked about is, look, they come to practice every day. They're not scripting these plays to go against a certain defense. Our defense are going out there and dominate them, and that's one of the reasons why, because we're not putting together a game package for our defense. So we are going to see different looks. We are going to be, surprised sometimes. We are going to get different blitzes and stuff like that, and it's up to them to react and be efficient. It's kind of hard when you're learning something new and learning new guys. So you're going to see a better rhythm as the preseason go on, as this camp go on, and it was great to see it Saturday, and it gives you hope to look forward to something come preseason, come week 1 of the preseason.
And even Terry was saying, when you have that, then you can bank that in the back of your mind, knowing that you've made certain plays. When it does come into the game, you're saying, okay, we've got this. Gives you a little extra confidence. We talk a lot about Terry. We talk even a lot about Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. Getting him out there was great to see him get in on the action. But what about the depth beyond that? Because, Logan, there's been a lot of guys out here that are flashing that maybe we don't talk about in the back end of that receiving core.
I mean, obviously the next couple guys are Cam Sims and De'Ami Brown, but I think the guys after that are Kelvin Harmon, Dax Milne. Those guys have done a great job, and they're interesting guys because they both play special teams. And there's young guys like Michelle and whatever, the other guy, 83, I can't remember his name right now, but both those young guys have flashed, right? So I think it's really interesting because the receiver room all of a sudden is extremely deep, and you've got guys who played football in the NFL, have NFL potential, Harmon and Milne now that I'm talking about, and they can make a ton of plays for you, and they can contribute on game day in a special teams capacity. So I think that's really important to note, and that's a really cool group to be a part of.
83 is Kyrick McGowan.
That's
what we're talking about.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys that are making some flash. It was great to see Kelvin Harmon. I think a lot of times we forget about him.
Yep.
Dax Milne really kind of showing that, he could be somebody out there. And we still got to figure out who might be that return guy in punts and kickoffs
Absolutely.
too. But
Mark and
Michelle.
Yeah. I'm going to say 19.
Yeah, 19.
No, he's flashed. And I was just talking about him out there. He has a different bounce. He reminds me of the kid we had last year who was number 1.
DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, DeAndre Carter. So it's going to be interesting to see him, in a live setting, because I think he's going to be one of those guys that stands out.
But that's the whole point of camp right now, is there's a lot of guys out here we haven't been used to seeing that are trying to make a case for being that guy in the rotation, being that guy that is that one that could come in here and have an impact outside of just the starters that we're well aware of.
Yeah.
Hey, the Washington Commanders open up the 2022 season at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday, September 11th at 1 p.m. Tickets start at just $46 while supplies last. Get your official Ticketmaster verified tickets at commanders.com/tickets. Command the stands. Well, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, linebacker Cole Holcomb is stopping by the set. We'll talk about how camp is going so far and how he and Jamin Davis are preparing for the season. This is Command Center camp coverage. We'll only be away 60 seconds, and you'll get to see practice the entire time. That's what we do.
I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for.
Introducing Nitro Pepsi. Smooth, creamy, delicious.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
And welcome back to Command Center camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise, setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. Time for your field pass presented by FedEx, where now meets next. Logan and Santana were down on the practice field. Okay, guys, what are you keeping your eye on?
Thanks, Julie. We're out here with the offense after giving the defense some love for the past couple of days, and we're doing routes on air again today. Earlier the receiver coach was kind of like, young buck, don't raise up when you come into your breaks.
Yeah.
Why is that important not to raise up?
It's so important, especially around this time of the day, too. When you're doing routes on air, you get a chance to work on some of those things. Technique. Technique is key. When you're showing a defender, that you either finna get ready to break down by how high you are, because 9 times out of 10, what we're emphasizing is to stay with the same lean and make every route look the same. So he was just telling the guy, hey, you got to make the route look like the last route and not be so high, because now you're giving an indicator that something might finna change in your progression of your steps or your route, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And those indicators are huge, right? And you can use them to your advantage as a receiver, right? You might pop up when you're running a go to make the DB kind of break down, but you want to make sure you know when you're doing that as a young receiver, right? All right, so now they're going to work through a different route combination here. We got De'Ami Brown up with Terry McLaurin. Carson Wentz is working with Terry, still trying to get that chemistry going. We saw a little bit of that in the practice on Saturday, but still a little bit of ways to go. What do you want to see from them in this week before the preseason game?
Well, it's going to be tough, man. Right now, we're watching these guys go through routes, and we already can see that some of these legs look heavy.
They look very heavy, right?
And don't get discouraged when you see that, because these are the dog days of training camp, and that's what happens. Especially as a receiver, you're constantly running, cutting, stopping. All that stuff takes a toll on your body, and maybe it's still early right now. We might see these guys loosen up a little bit, middle of practice. But right now, you just want to see them continue the progression on getting familiar with where they're going to be at in different routes. And I think that's going to take place throughout practice every week until we see, them out there in some live action.
And I think you brought up a great point there. Like, that's one of the issues of having a late practice on Saturday, right? It affects the recovery for all these guys, and they do look a little heavy-legged. Still working that timing, still working that chemistry. Another thing you notice here, Tana, is how they just ran digs. That's a 10 to 15-yard in-cut. Everyone runs it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
What makes it different? You know what I mean? Why is it different for every individual? Is that just body type, or are they working different techniques, you think?
It's just who they are. One of the things that I've always tried to do is study the guy in front of me, or the guys, period, who's running what I'm running. And if I'm a fast twitch guy, then of course my route's going to look a lot different from a guy who's a little, has the longer stride. But what you can do as a receiver, especially when you're a student of the game, you just take little nuances here and there from other guys and add it to your tool belt. And before you know it, if you show a defender something different, now he doesn't know what you got coming, and then you at the last minute, you switch off and give him the same route that he didn't expect. So that's what I used to do to play with guys' mind, because I know I was a fast twitch guy, and later in my career I had to change it up and have a longer stride. And when you look at a guy as short as I am, you wouldn't expect me to have that.
Yeah, and we got the tight ends over here with the routes on air today, and Curtis Hodges is out. Bates has the calf. Logan Thomas is obviously out. Whew. And so now you're kind of dealing with Armani and Semis Reyes, right?
Yeah.
And so Armani Rogers, again, a guy, converted quarterback, did an outstanding job on Saturday. Not a big guy, but physical dude. And you see some of that athleticism here, kind of like a receiver, tight end hybrid guy that can be a mismatch weapon.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
one of them UCLA type receivers I talked about so much to you. I got a thing about them UCLA guys, those guys and ball catchers. But no, when you see a guy that has these kind of this kind of skill set, you want to try to get him on speed, because you know where he comes from, so he understands everything. And now it's just about getting him familiar with what he's doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see these young guys stepping up into larger roles. And obviously, like, the depth of that group has been something that we've talked about a ton. But obviously, excited to see what they do in today's practice. Excited to see them in the first preseason game. Julie, back to you.
Thank you, guys. Let's now focus in on the defense, specifically linebacker Cole Holcomb. He is coming off a great season last year, taking full-time duty of the Mike linebacker position while leading the defensive huddle. He and second-year linebacker Jamin Davis have been putting in the work out here at camp, and Cole took some time to stop by the set to chat with us. It is our Pepsi player profile. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Washington Commanders.
Cole Holcomb now joining us, going into your fourth year, taking over that Mike position as well, seeing you and Jamin out there a good little bit. How's camp? I'll just start with these one. How's camp going so far for you?
You have the good days, you have your bad days. You got, just keep going, keep coming every day. It's a grind. So, some days are gonna be better than the others, but we're stacking up more good days than bad days.
Yeah, I feel like the defense is on a tear.
Yeah, no, we had a good day today. This is one of the good ones.
You had a great day out there, man. You're being modest. Cole, this is your first full off season playing the middle linebacker position. I know last year you started several games at the middle linebacker position. How much more comfortable are you playing that position, having a full off season, having last year's experience, and then 2 weeks into training camp?
Yeah, no, it's you're not, when you first get in that spot, you're thinking, okay, I got one extra thing I got to think about. I got to get everybody lined up, and now it's kind of just, it's second nature. So now I'm getting back in the swing of things, being able to dissect, what the offense is giving us, being able to look at the formations, personnel, stuff like that. Get ahead of the play.
Speaking of comfort, we talking about you playing a new position. It's probably not new to you, but it's just talked about more so because you're going to probably be there primarily. How is it, or just, get an audience that, that mentality of having multiple years on your back now, having those years saying, okay, now I'm in my fourth season. How much has that, transitioned or made you that much sharper out there, knowing that you're not a veteran, you're not a guy who they come to and ask questions?
Yeah, no, I've banked a lot of reps, so I've seen a lot of plays. As you go on and on each year, you're like, okay, it's the same concepts. They might just dress it up a little differently. So it's being able to find those concepts, and then it kind of becomes second nature of like, biting on play action. My rookie year, I was always biting on all the play actions. Last year, Jamin biting on play action. This year, we got the rookies biting on play action. And then, it's like, but I'm trying to help them out and give them keys and to be able to be like, okay, when the back's, if the back's stepping this way and we're getting this action, there's not a run play out of this. So, you don't have to be running up there. Just trying to take those little things and feed them down to the younger guys.
One of the things that I mentioned about you as far as the next step for you is just from a vocal standpoint, you as the middle linebacker having to challenge guys when you don't see maybe a practice or a period not going the way it should be going. Have you embraced that role and that element as far as being a vocal leader of the defense? Because you're the guy that those other 10 guys in the huddle, they're looking at you every single play.
Yeah, no, I've like you said, you got to hold guys accountable. And then for me, I feel like I gotta be doing it. I gotta be preaching what I'm saying. So I definitely, I tell the guys like, hey, if you see me slacking off, like, don't be afraid to let me know. Because that's the motto I live by. I feel like I gotta live how I'm preaching to these guys. So I try to take that every day.
Jamin was here just a couple of days ago, and he gave so much credit to you and how you've kind of helped mentor him, coach him, see things on film. What have you seen in his growth and what he's being able to do here in camp?
It's fun. It's fun watching Jamin. He's starting to figure things out on his own. And like when you see it click for him, like you see those moments. That's people talk about like winning, losing, all that stuff, and then when you talk about guys that are retired, they always talk about the locker room and like the camaraderie and stuff like that. And I think those are moments like seeing him grow from where he was at and seeing him, figure things out on his own and take that extra step. Like, I can see him taking that extra step to start figuring things out on his own and not have to be told something or, he's starting to let his instincts, he's got great instincts. So he's letting him go. He's letting it loose and he's letting it fly out there. Speaking of Jamin, also, he's shared with us that the defense had a mentality this year going forward that they're not letting much get behind them this year. They're not taking nothing for granted. Absolutely. Do y'all have certain goals as a defense or individually that you're saying, hey, this is what we want to do this year. This is how we want to look, when it comes to I think, like, 2 years ago, we were a top 5 defense. That's always the goal. We're going to try, and we know we're capable of it. So, like, we got a taste of it. We got a little bit of humble pie last year. And then, so I think it made us real hungry to get back to that spot. As far as switching gears a little bit, you got married this off season. Yeah. When I talked to you prior to you getting married, you weren't sure whether you were going to wear the mullet or not. I still see the mullet. No, I kept it. She was good with it. I told her I'd cut it if she wanted me to, and she's like, nah, it's your thing. You got to let it ride. It got some powers in it, don't it? Yeah. I wore the fro and the braids. Yep. I felt like if I cut it, it wasn't going to be me. Exactly. So I was, I was glad she told me to keep it on. That's dope. It was a fun day, man. It was a good time. That's great, man. Yeah. Congratulations to that. Thank you.
Jamin's like, mullet man. Man, I gotta give Mullet Man some credit for where we're at. Look, they kind of are going more with just the 2 LBs on the field, and you've got St. Juice, you got Cam Curl coming in that Buffalo nickel position. Does that change anything of what you're doing compared? No, I mean, if you think about it, it's really like, you still got base calls. It's just they're playing we would call it the Sam linebacker if we had 3 linebackers out there. So it doesn't really change how, me and Jamin are playing. It's just like, like I said, it's just like base, but they're basically playing a linebacker. Like we always joke around with those guys. Like when they slide in the box, I'm like, hey, come put them linebacker pads on. It's time to get your hands dirty. Yeah. Speaking of linebackers, you have 3 linebackers, three former linebackers in the building in terms of head coach Ron Rivera, defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio, and then Steve Russ. What's that relationship like with those guys? No, it's definitely, when your head coach is a linebacker, you got your D coordinator, those are 2 big positions on the team. So right. They're pretty hardcore on it. They're tough on us, and they give us little like nibbles of information and techniques, certain way to play this, certain way to play that. It's like every play I got, Rivera might come up and say something, and then next play Del Rio's coming up and saying something. I'm like, it's a fun time, and it's awesome to have those many eyes and those many guys that have gone through it and have seen a lot of reps, seen a lot of plays. So it's good to have that experience. We could talk about tackles all day, about linebacker position. This guy here always was in the 130s, 150s, it seemed like every year. Going forward, I remember last year you got a pick 6. Is that something that now, when you get a taste of that, that's a feeling different than just getting those tackles? Do you have in your mind now, every time that ball is in your area, you're trying to snag it and take it to the distance? Bro, that was, I didn't have one in high school, didn't have one in college. I was like, first one is in the league. And I was freaking out. And I was like running around, didn't know what to do. And because I had this coach in college who was like, you have 2 options. You can either throw it in the stands or you can punt in the stands. So all I wanted to do was throw it in the stands. But I'm like, okay, that's like we're down by 8. That's a 15-yard penalty, a fine. Like I can't do it right now. He called me right after the game. Was like, you didn't throw it. I'm like, coach, I can't. Like the game was too close. Nah, that was dope, man. But yeah, man, it was that feeling. I'm chasing it. No doubt. We appreciate you stopping by. I'm glad we were talking about sitting down here. How uncomfortable Tana might be between 2 linebackers when might get tackled here. I'm in familiar territory. These guys running after me all the time. Oh man. Really looking forward to this season. The growth of you at that position. We just see the maturity coming in here and really helping Jamin along. Excited for that unit this year. Absolutely. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for having me. Buddy. Thank you. Thank you, man.
And here's a look at what Cole Holcomb has done here in Washington. You see he's got 43 games, and during that time, over 300 tackles, over 200 of them solo. Of course, we like the tackles for loss. We like it when it gets to the quarterback. And those interceptions. It's nice to see it when Cole has that. And of course, he has a pick six as well. Again, came against Dallas. One he will not forget. We're welcoming you back in here, and let's talk a little bit about Cole as Santana and Logan are back with me. What are you seeing and expecting from him this year as he gets further into the NFL, into this Mike position, that confidence and kind of teaching and educating the younger guys as well, bringing along Jamin?
Well, I just read an article about linebacker development, how, like, you know, some people say year 2 development for receivers or whatever. For linebackers, it's year 4 or 5. And so kind of that's where he's entering now. And I think a big part of that is just your recognition of what the offense is trying to do to you. And he's gotten better at that every single year. You watch the first half of last year compared to the second half of last year, much improved. So kind of embracing that signal caller responsibility, understanding more conceptually what offenses are trying to do to beat you, and being a mentor to Jamin Davis, I think are my expectations for him.
No doubt, you know, and having that sit down with him, he expressed about, you know, this Mike position has been talked about a lot as being something new to him. But he's like, hey, I've been in different sets where I was there already. So it's great to know that he's familiar with it. And just like you said, you know, every year he's progressed. You know, we saw him. I remember I harped on, he was like a puppy that was lost, that couldn't find his owner his first year. But he put that behind him. Second year came out and showed a lot of progress and he made a lot of plays. And you saw him last year, you know, be that vocal guy and that leader on the field. And now you get into that fourth season. You know, you talked about the receivers, you know, progression or we start getting, you know, more familiar with things our second and third year. That's any guy who's playing this game. You know, that third and fourth year, you all get a little settled, a little more seasoned, and then now you expect big things from him.
He seems to have a calm confidence this year. Not that he hasn't necessarily had that before, but there's a little bit different approach to him. And Logan, you've mentioned before that this is one of the most difficult position and rooms to really learn, especially under the defense for defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio. So what is it that they really need to work on this camp to make sure that that unit is solidified?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think one of the things is just getting more reps. Like, one of the things about playing in this kind of gapped out defense where everyone's got a gap is you have to make sure you know your adjustments, right? When you play a coverage concept where you have to match concepts post snap, you have to see a lot of different route concepts. So making sure you're familiar with what offenses are trying to do, getting all those reps, I think that's going to be a huge part for him. And then getting that communicated to Jamin, again, like I've mentioned already, like, to me that's going to be critical. Because I think Cole, you feel pretty good about where he's at, but Jamin's development is really the thing that's going to characterize this linebacker group.
And Santana, let's talk a little bit about the depth as well, because I feel like we do put a lot of emphasis on Cole and on Jamin because we're anticipating them carry the workload. You do need depth, though. They brought in the veteran Nathan Gary. The rookie Trey Walker, he had decided to step away from football, and Coach Rivera was saying he was going through some things in his personal life that he was trying to figure out how to handle, and he's now decided he wants to come back. So he's back out here. You need depth. Where are we in going beyond just Cole and Jamin?
Well, one of the things you got to think about is who we have here now. And me and Logan was just talking about some of the guys. I'm gonna read some of the names off. You have a young guy, Harris, Milo, Mayo. All these guys are gonna get opportunities to go out there and strut their stuff throughout these preseason games. So we're gonna probably look at what we have in house right now. But as you say, when you get into the thick of things, and now you're getting seeing these guys perform in preseason, that's when I think the coaches will go to the draw board and say, we might need another guy here and there. And it might be a guy that comes available. It could be some guys right now that's on a team that's not getting fair shot and that has enough ability or familiar with the system. So it's going to be interesting going down and just seeing how things playing out. But they're going to look in-house first to give these guys an opportunity. And once they see them play and see where we at as a defense and as a linebacker core, then you start shooting and say, okay, we need a guy or two to replace somebody or be here just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned Mayo. Mayo's gotten a lot of reps kind of with that first team group on first and second down. That kind of speaks to his skill set. Very smart football player, very physical football player, limited athletically, but a guy who's going to play a role in this team on offense or defense and special teams, excuse me. And then Khaleke Hudson's a guy that, you know, kind of that converted safety overhang player from college. Very athletic and has had a nice camp. So I think there's 4 deep there you feel pretty good about. And then, like you mentioned, Tana, it's those kind of back end, those 5-6 guys. Who are you going to keep? Milo? Is it Harris? Both those guys have had a good training camp, but someone's got to distinguish themselves and make the team.
Which is what camp is all about. And soon, this upcoming Saturday, they will be able to see how they actually fare in the game, as we know that that's really where you get a little bit further into depth. We'll get the starters out there for a few reps, and we'll see how the back of this linebacking unit does come together. Now, we have you covered each and every day from training camp here on our streams, but also we've got Command Center, which comes to you on NBC Sports Washington, 5:30 and 10 p.m. Make sure that you catch every episode as well on our YouTube channel and on commanders.com. We have highlights, analysis, inside access that you are not going to get anywhere else with these two gents right here, Logan and Santana. Now, we are not done just yet. Coming up next, we are talking about rookie defensive backs Percy Butler. We'll talk about how he has been looking at camp and if he could be in the mix at that Buffalo nickel position. That is right after this 1-minute break, but we are going to keep the field cam up for you.
This one's for every NFL fan whose fan cave is more like a fan corner of a guest room closet. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
You fired up the grill for one hot dog? Seriously?
Hot dogs, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back to Command Center Camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise, setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. Well, fans have been active on social media. Here's a look at some of the posts with the hashtag HTTC. Hail to the Commanders. Of course, Tailgate Ted does not miss an opportunity to come out to practice any and every day that he can. We love seeing everybody getting their swag, their Commanders gear. We have a tent set up out here where you can buy some and purchase some if you do come out as well. Just come out, tweet us with the hashtag HTTC. Well, it is Monday. It's a new week, and that means we are going camping with team reporter Zach Selby.
Hello and welcome back to Camping Out with Zach Selby as we are wrapping up practice today here on this Friday. Ron Rivera is addressing the media over here to my right, and we're dropping all the news you would ever hope and care to learn about your Commanders as they go through training camp in the 2022 season. We got a couple returners today. We have Pete Haley from NBC Sports Washington and Matt Parrish from the Washington Times. Let's go check out what they had to say. And now we have Pete Haley. So we got to talk about Percy Butler, right? I mean, that's one of the ultimate position flex for the players right now. He had a really good play during team drills, kind of stood up J.D. McKissick. What have you seen out of him so far? Has he really kind of like been that versatile player that Rivera said he would be?
So yeah, that play, I wrote it down in my observations post. What was cool about that is Butler's like the speed guy who's supposed to thrive in special teams and when he's running in space, but that was like he was almost a linebacker, like sitting in the hole and just stood up McKissick, was able to hold him until reinforcements showed up. Like that was like, okay, I didn't know he had that part to his game. I thought he was going to be a rangy guy, but seeing him hit like that with no real momentum before it was really, really cool. So I think the young safeties, all of them behind McCain and Curl, are having really good camps. I think Derek Forrest, Butler, Jeremy Reeves, I think that's a really good competition to watch.
What's one thing that you can take away from this second week of training camp?
I love what these starting corners have done, William Jackson and Kendall Fuller. Jackson's been telling us that he feels more at home in this system, and I believe him after watching how he plays. And Kendall Fuller's always been so steady, but this camp he looks to be more than steady. He looks to be sort of a shutdown corner in his own right. So I really like what those two are doing, and I'm excited to see if they get a little pass rush, if they can get their hands on more passes and convert some more turnovers.
Now, as we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matt Parrish from the Washington Times. Casey Tuhill had a couple of really nice plays. Rivera was talking yesterday about how much he's really seen out of Casey. Call him like a try-hard guy. What have you seen out of Casey?
Exactly that. I mean, also intelligence, too. There was the play with Antonio Gibson. They ran it, and Tuhill just immediately stuffed it out. And it's a really impressive read. And then later came in and forced the fumble, or, was part of a pile that forced the fumble, caught it in the air, and ran it all the way back. So, yeah, he's had a strong day today, and that's needed because Washington's going to need another edge rusher with Chase Young out, and so maybe Tuhill's that guy.
Time for today's Fresh Takes presented by Safeway, the official supermarket for the Washington Commanders. And you can listen to Zach's full interviews with the beat reporters on our podcast, Going Camping with Selby. Find it wherever you get your other Command Center podcasts. Logan, Santana, let's talk about some of these fresh takes. And we're going to start with the rookie defensive back, Percy Butler. This is a player that comes in and having to adjust to the NFL, to being in the position in the backfield, and probably make some contributions on special teams. What have you seen so far?
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned the special teams. I think that's where he's going to make his biggest contribution early. But he's a guy that's starting to flash. I think OTAs was a little bit slow for him, and then training camp came out. Big pick on day 5 or so, and then he's showing up in the run game in a demonstrative way. Everyone kind of says, is he going to fill that Buffalo nickel role? I love the way he runs to the football when he's unaccounted for or when he can get there before the blocker gets there. Still needs to work on his block destruction techniques or kind of how to handle that with hat and hands, but I think he's a guy with a ton of potential. Again, the speed, the 4.3, that shows up all the time, and I just want to see him make more plays at this point.
And preseason is key for that.
Yeah.
Preseason is going to be very key for a guy like him because now you're going to get a chance to see him play early and often. And you're talking about flashing. Guys, when they're rookies, they have to get the confidence, and it doesn't happen overnight. So, slowly you will see this guy make play after play. But like Logan alluded to, special teams is going to be key, and it's all going to happen in the preseason. We're going to see if he's going to come out and be a contributor on the defense or play a big role in the special teams and get sprinkled in here and there.
And to Tana's point, though, he was the highest graded special teams player coming out of college. So obviously that's going to be a big part of what he does.
If we talk about somebody else that's making some plays, someone that you've even worked with as well, Logan, Casey Tuhill, getting in the rotation there with Chase Young, especially being out. We saw him last season get some time playing. We've seen him make some big plays out here in camp. Where is his game taking that next elevation?
I think he's just a guy who's getting more confident. You see him playing with better pad level, better hands, and he's being very decisive to the football. He's one of the best athletes on the team from an explosive measurement standpoint. 40, vertical jump, broad jump, very, very twitched up, explosive guy. Didn't always see that last year. Now you're starting to see it, right? Made some plays a couple days ago in the short yardage period, tackle for loss, forced fumble, all those things. Getting to the football fast and with bad intentions, and I think that just speaks to his confidence and how he's been doing.
Say bad intentions, huh? Well, one of the things is going to be key too, because now you're getting more reps. Now you have a chance to really have a shot at being on the field a little more. So when you have a guy that is key for a team like we have in Chase Young, and knowing that he's not going to be here, someone has to step up, and you're going to see that second and that third guy that say, look, I have a shot to be 2. I have a shot to play at least 4 or 5 games out the gate. So you're going to see guys like that flash, but it's great to see him flash and knowing that he have so much, he have the ability rather.
That's one of the things Coach Herrera is saying is these young guys, they're getting game experience, and that's really what matters is them having those reps in the game, knowing what to expect, and the more you get that, of course, the more they're going to be confident in their play, and you never know when you need them to step in and make big plays as well. That's going to do it for this Command Center camp coverage. A very happy birthday to our executive producer.
Ooh.
As he said, he made it through another year. Ryan Yoakum is the man that makes this show sing. He makes all of our shows sing. Congratulations for another year. Happy birthday to Ryan Yoakum.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
The man pulling the strings behind the curtain. We will be here each and every day. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we will be live at 9 a.m. We get to go live one day a week each time during camp, so Tuesday is that day. But, of course, every day we have camp coverage for you with our streams. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time tomorrow, 9 a.m.